Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet. It's time to grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax while we chat about what has just happened in the stars above us. And here we are today, March 14th. We are in the Ides of March. For any of you who have ever read Julius Caesar, the technical Ides of March tomorrow, but we usually think of the Ides of March being the 14th, 15th, and 16th. And oh, by the way, happy Pi Day today. Lots going on, right? Not to mention the fact that we just have had a lunar eclipse and that it was a powerful lunar eclipse at about 24 degrees of Virgo. And you might be feeling it in a big way today. I know this morning I woke up a few hours after the eclipse and I couldn't go back to sleep. It was like I felt the whole of the energy and just couldn't get back to my slumber. I finally fell back to sleep, and then just then the alarm rang and I'm like, "No, I don't want to get up." But I obviously have to get up and be here for you guys this morning. So if you're feeling, this sort of lethargy or tiredness, or on the other side of the spectrum, if you're feeling really super excited or jazzed up or butterflies in your tummy, it's likely because we've just come through a powerful window portal of energy. And this was a powerful karmic reset. And this particular reset might have been about, for you, clearing old cycles, revealing hidden truths, maybe even asking you to reclaim clarity, purpose, and structure in your life. Virgo, right? A sign that's earthy and a sign that is also very much about the practical, the pragmatic, the organized, perfection seeking part of your life. Now, so what did this eclipse bring up for you? Right? Where do you go from here, or where do we all go from here? And we're going to break this down this morning for everyone. But first, hello to everybody who's joining us this morning. I saw Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel. Thanks for that reminder, Debbie. Everybody hit that like button or thumbs up button, depending on what social media you're on. And please share with your friends. And Diana Schneider, good morning to you. And treat yourself. That's Julie. Good morning. Terry, good morning to you. Christine, good morning. Joan, good morning. Terry Hofstetter, good morning. She says, I woke up just before the full moon on this side of the world, feeling tired today, right? I checked the sky just as I was going to bed because for here where I live, it was actually last night on the 13th at 11:54 p.m. And I usually go to bed about 10. When I checked the sky, the moon was coming in and out of clouds, and I thought, why set an alarm and wake up only to be disappointed because I can't see it? So I have no idea whether it was visible or not. So, but it doesn't really matter. I knew it was happening. I can connect with it energetically. But Terry, I totally get that same feeling this morning. And thank you, Christine. This is a dragonfly that my son bought for me at a Christmas store on San Juan Island in Friday Harbor. Thank you. And Asa, good morning. And Luis Gomez, good morning to you as well. So I think we've got the hellos down. Let's dig in because I've got a lot of information for us today. So the question that everybody should be asking themselves is, how did this eclipse affect me or impact my life? And for some of you, it may have been a non-starter because it's not impacting any particular planets or aspects that you have in your chart, in your natal chart. Others might be very impacted by it, depending again on where it's set up in your chart. And even if you felt it just a little, like Terry and I, who are feeling very tired this morning, you have to look at the house of the chart that the event occurred in. In my case, it was the third house of the mind. And of Gemini, of course, my mind is always running. And that's what happens to me at 3 in the morning when I wake up, is my mind starts working on charts or on bills or on new ideas or inspiration, whatever it is that comes up at 3 in the morning when I wake up. That is the problem, right? The mind gets crazy. And still, we're in a period of time that is activated not just individually, but collectively, so all of us taken together. So this lunar eclipse brought perhaps major closures in your life, letting go of something, endings and emotional resets. But likely it didn't happen yesterday or this morning even. It might have started weeks ago. It might have started just last week. It may actually have started, you didn't quite notice it, but as these intervening aspects come up, you might notice it, right? So think about what has been an emotional reset for you, what has been an ending or a closure. And in Virgo energy, of course, we get boom, reality checks and refinement and possibly healing, right? The high side is all about the healing of the old stuff. Now, the sun was also very close to a conjunction with Neptune and with Saturn. They're kind of, as I showed the chart, let's see if I can show it to you again. Here's Saturn at 22, the sun was at 24, the south node at 27, and Neptune at his 29th degree. So they're very tightly compacted, and all of that kind of leads to karmic revelations, hard truths perhaps that we have to face. And then the moon was conjunct the south node, which is the driver of the eclipse. And that was about releasing past attachments, right? The moon causes us with the south node to let go, to release, to move on, right? So, how did this eclipse show up for you? Kind of type your responses down in the comment section below, especially, if something big happened or you were really noticing what was going on. And of course, all this begs the question, what happens next, right? In the big mean, we have tomorrow, Mercury retrograde. Then the sun enters Aries on March 20th, the astrological new year. Woo! The new year of all new years, which brings in fresh energy and bold new beginnings. And then there's the solar eclipse on the 29th. And this is the official rebirth moment, perhaps the first new moon of the sign Aries that brings us such potential for expressing the new. And then, there's this initiation energy that occurs here with this as well. And that initiation is Mars energy, Mars, the ruler of the sign of Aries, and also sitting in the sign of Cancer, which means there's a lot going on in terms of our ability to feel secure at home, maybe even moving homes and changing our homes, changing our foundations, etc. So the next 2 weeks, we're going to be in a transition zone where the eclipse yesterday, tonight, last night, opened up, or this morning, opened up a door, but then Mercury goes retrograde. And in Aries energy, that means we're still going to be navigating the idea of what comes next. It's not real clear what comes next, perhaps. So, how do we move forward? Well, I mean, the fast and easy answer is reflect, right? Reflect, but don't rush. Mercury retrograde tomorrow begins this whole process of the few weeks of clarity coming from our reflection, from our taking our time and not immediate action, right? So even though we may feel pressed or pushed or wanting to take action, Mercury in retrograde and Venus also still in retrograde, causing us to slow that down. And, maybe one of the other ways we move forward is to just trust the realignment, trust that what fell away wasn't aligned anymore, and trust the process, right? The process will take you where you need to go. And with Virgo energy being where the moon still is, by the way, today, right now, 27 degrees, having come through the eclipse point. Um, Refine your daily routines. Virgo wants practical shifts or practical actions, grounded change, right? Don't just throw it all up in the air to change without having a grounded plan, if you will, even. And self care, another big deal during this period of time. So, here's a great question for you. What's one thing you're releasing or shifting now that the eclipse is over, post eclipse? And maybe you can write that down in the comments section as well, personally, based on what you've examined in your own experience of this lunar eclipse. What is it that you're releasing or shifting? Um, and where do we go from here? Right. This is another question. Eclipses always bring us to this question. The eclipse sets things in motion. Your only job is to really trust, listen, and align yourself with what comes up, what shows up in your reality. So the call to action is as it shows up, then you decide, you choose what it is you're going to do. So let's talk a little bit more about what I mean by a karmic reset, right? That was one of the things that happens with any lunar eclipse, but particularly one like we had this morning in Virgo. All right, so a karmic reset happens when cosmic events sort of wipe the slate clean, clearing out the old energy and pushing us toward our new consciousness or a new evolutionary step in our consciousness. It's like the universe saying, you've learned this, all you can from this chapter, this Piscean chapter, maybe, and now it's time to move on. And eclipses, especially lunar eclipses, act as portals of acceleration. They start this process moving faster and faster, bringing sudden endings, maybe profound insights into something that's been happening in your life. Maybe a fated turning point where this day or somewhere in this time period, something changed or changes. And as you look back later, you go, that was it, right? That was my turning point. And because eclipses are activated because of the lunar nodes, our karmic past and our evolutionary future come together. And that makes eclipses always a sort of catalyst for growth. Now, the moon in the full moon lunar eclipse was in conjunction to the south node. So the south node is about the karmic reset. There's where we really get this idea of karmic reset. And it is forcing us then to release something in our lives, outdated patterns, maybe outdated behaviors, attachments, especially those tied to Virgo themes of control, perfectionism, and over analysis. By the way, that word control just reminded me. Terry and I watched the movie Heretic last night on Netflix, I believe. Might have been Max. I'm not sure. But Heretic with, what is his name? God, what is his name? It was in my head and now it's gone. But anyway, it's an excellent movie, a little scary, a little daunting, but also so profound. As you watch it, you'll understand what I mean. Control, about control, perfectionism as well, and also over analysis. These are Virgo themes that we're being asked to look at and to release where we find it activated in our lives. So here's why this eclipse, though, was particularly karmic in nature, and how it is so transformative. And one, of course, the moon conjunct the south node. And that's about releasing the old habits, maybe limiting beliefs, anything that has been in the way of you really setting out in a new way of doing something. So it's the outdated stuff that you're letting go of. But the sun was also a part of the lunar eclipse, and it was conjunct Neptune and the North Node, where are we going, and Saturn, all in Pisces. And that leads to a spiritual awakening, perhaps. Getting clarity through dissolution, right? As we let go, things become clearer. It's not like we're clogged up and we can't see down to the depths of what it is that we're here to do or learn or who we're here to be. And it pushes us toward a new karmic path, not karmic as in punitive, but karmic as in what comes next in terms of my evolution, my evolutionary path. And then Saturn's presence, of course, here is always going to be about the long term lessons that we're learning, the lessons we've been avoiding becoming unavoidable. right? So it's like the lesson you never wanted to learn, but you must in order to move forward. And of course, the eclipse in an earth sign, the reset isn't just emotional, it's about practical changes in work, in health, and daily life, and in service, how you share of your gifts and your talents, your environment, the environment in your body, including how it is you take in nutrients or how you take in the energy from the environment and how it sustains you and or how it toxifies you, right? So those things are all a part of this. So what this means for you, if if something ended, shifted, or came to light, it was a karmic course correction, right? It's a little signpost on the way that says, oops, you missed the turn, turn here. The universe is realigning you with your highest truth, your highest path. And even if it feels confusing or uncertain right now, over the next few weeks, those things might become clearer to you. This wasn't just a one-day event either. I can't stress that enough because the lessons and shifts will unfold over the course of the next 6 months until we get to the next set of eclipses in September. So be prepared, right? Be open to seeing what it is that is shifting and morphing in your life over the course of time now. Moving forward, the key is to trust what's falling away and lean into the new energy that's emerging, right? Leaning in and, ask yourself some questions. How did the lunar eclipse impact me, right? Any major closures or endings, that type of thing, emotional resets in your life, any reality checks, anything that needs refining or healing that came to light during this period of time or comes to light during this period of time. How about karmic revelations? How about hard truths that you are having to face in the aftermath of the eclipse? And what about the moon conjunct the south node in this, which is all about releasing past attachments? So, again, we get to the question is how did this eclipse show up for you? Or how did it impact you? What themes surfaced in your life that need to be dealt with over the next couple of weeks? All right. C anything come on, you guys, share, 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 share. Tell us what's going on in your lives. TD Hawk, good morning, and she says she's super tired today too. So, yeah, I think we're feeling sort of the, impact, the reverb of the whole thing. All right, so the next question then becomes, what happens next? Where do we go from here? And what is the next period of time going to be like for us? Because tomorrow, Mercury turns retrograde in Aries, and so we we get this karmic reset yet today or last night, and or early this morning, and the karmic reset is like almost wanting to show us the go sign, but then Mercury turns retrograde and gives us the slowdown, right? So now we have to slow down and reassess before we take new action. Yay, right? Isn't frustrating? Foot on the gas, foot on the brake at the same time kind of energy. But Mercury in retrograde in Aries begins a fiery review period for us that we can take advantage of to determine what we need to align to next. So on March 15th, tomorrow at, let's see, do I have a time? 4:41 a.m. In East Coast time. So that's going to be 1:41 a.m. Pacific time. Mercury is going to turn into the retrograde phase of his cycle. And this is an inferior conjunction or an inferior moment. So it's the beginning of the new Mercury cycle. So pay attention to thoughts and ideas that are arising during this period of time because they might be signposts along the way for what it is that you need to think about next. What Aries things might be available to you as time goes on. But typically, Mercury in retrograde brings us a reflection period, a time for revision and realignment. So it's not necessarily a time to take hard action on anything. And this isn't just any Mercury retrograde either. It's happening immediately after a Virgo lunar eclipse, which means it's acting as sort of a continuation of the themes that have been brought up to us, right? And it's a deep integration of the eclipse energy that we have possible for us during this period of time. So eclipses again bring revelations. Mercury retrograde makes us reassess. So reassess them. So let me rephrase this. Eclipses bring revelations and Mercury retrograde makes us reassess them. So we might have had some kind of aha moment or some kind of wake up call. But then with Mercury going into retrograde immediately after, now we have to reassess before we take action. And if this Virgo lunar eclipse was a karmic reset, bringing maybe a sudden ending or bringing some kind of clarity, then Mercury retrograde now asks you, do you understand what happened? And where or what are you going to do with what it is that came up, right? What's the next step? And the Virgo moon versus Aries and Mercury is about healing versus action, right? What action do I need to take in order to heal? And remember, Virgo is meticulous, it is detail oriented and all very grounded energy. And it showed us what's maybe not working in our daily lives. In our relationships or in our routines, that the things that we need to think about changing, right? That's the reset. And Aries is impulsive, it's bold and it's direct. Mercury retrograde in Aries, though, forces us to pause before taking that action. So it ensures then that we're not reacting so much from the old wounds, that we have time to consider what it is that we want to do, right? It's like the breath between reaction and response that we talk about all the time. So the retrograde slows us down for a reason, and that reason is about being clear about what comes next. Aries energy is about that forward momentum, that dynamic movement, but retrogrades pull us back. And this means we might want to charge ahead, but Mercury is saying, not yet. Reflect first, right? Slow it down. Can you see where the frustration might come up with something like this, right? You get this, aha, this is where I need to go. This is what I need to do. This is how I need to do it, but not yet. Gotta wait. Gotta wait a little bit. So, what was revealed at the eclipse for each one of us may need revising. If the eclipse shook up your relationships, your work, your health, your daily routines, your personal life direction, then Mercury retrograde will make you rethink your initial response to all of that. New information may come to light during this period of time too. And over the next 3 weeks, especially, be paying attention to what is coming up that may be acting as uh, an alterer of your plans, right? What kind of plans have you made? And then watch how they get changed, because that's what happens. So, what do we need to expect with Mercury retrograde following the eclipse? Well, frustration over delays. Of course, we're going to feel frustrated. Aries wants speed, but retrogrades force patience. And we're revisiting perhaps old battles. What I mean by that is Aries rules conflict and courage and independence. And if you thought you were done with a certain battle or a certain issue, think again, because likely it might be coming back up for review, right? Such a Mercury retrograde thing. Any unfinished business that you have had may resurface during this period of time. Projects or conversations with people or decisions from the past that may need closure now, all coming up for review. And of course, the usual tech and communication hiccups. Yesterday, I sent out an email, and of course, it had the wrong day of the week announcing the show this morning. And I had to quickly send out another one. Thank you for those who told me about the error. But tech and communication hiccups. Aries is kind of fast and fiery and sometimes, just acts recklessly or acts first and thinks later. So expect impulsive messages, tech glitches, miscommunications, because that's what happens, right? We get going so fast. I just wanted to get that email out right away because I forgot to send it the day before, and boom, I blew it, right? But we get a second chance to make it right. It's not like we blow up our lives and we don't have a second chance. We can reassess what the um, uh, action was, how it impacted us, and choose to change the next, or go to the next step, right? Choose to make a bold change, or make a bold move, but not during the retrograde. Like this will come after that retrograde. So, how do we work with Mercury retrograde's energy in the shadow now of this lunar eclipse? Well, first of all, avoid impulsive decisions. Take your time before acting on anything, especially on eclipse revelations. Right? If you saw something that you needed to change in your life immediately, maybe reassess it first, right? Take a look, slow it down. Revisit past projects or old ideas or plans. Dust them off, take them off the shelf, and see, if you can make them new. Are they worth reviving? Is it worth it to start this again? Reflect how you assert yourself in your life. Aries rules leadership, it rules independence, it rules personal sovereignty. Are you speaking your truth, or are you reacting to somebody else's truth, or reacting to something that's occurred in your life? And stay flexible. Delays are inevitable with a Mercury retrograde. Reversals are also common during a Mercury retrograde. Just roll with those punches rather than resisting them. You'll find yourself far less frustrated if you do. So, the final takeaway with Mercury going retrograde: don't rush into anything. Don't rush any post eclipse decisions. Take your time, slow down just enough to reevaluate before you take action. Giving yourself time to process, the emotions that came up, or the ideas that have come up. And use this next 3 weeks with Mercury retrograde wisely. Review, realign, and trust that clarity will come. And by April 7th, when Mercury goes back to forward motion, maybe you'll better understand what your next steps are in light of the eclipse. All right. Um, Now, the next step here, the next action after Mercury is going retrograde, is the sun entering Aries on March 20th. And that's the astrological new year. There is a fresh energy injection, if you will. There is a possibility for a bold new beginning. And that reminds me to tell all of you that next Thursday, the 20th, on the astrological new year, we're doing a astrology new year pop-up on Zoom. I sent that out yesterday. The link and everything for that is on my Facebook page, Living Astrology. And if you want updates and so forth, that's where a lot of my posts go. And I notice not a lot of people are seeing them. So I don't know if you didn't realize I had a Living Astrology Facebook page, or what. So, or maybe you're just relying on me to talk to you during my broadcast. So check out my Facebook page. There you'll see updates and so forth. And the webinar will be free or by donation, right? I put a donation there if you're so inclined, but nobody will not be able to attend because of money. So now on March 20th, the sun moves into Aries. That 0 degrees of Aries is a massively important point in the astrology wheel because it's where all things begin anew. And as planets pass that 0 Aries point, it has an impact of an injection, if you will, like getting a shot in the arm of new, fresh energy, no matter what the planet is. Now, Aries, though, energy is also very immature energy, if I can say that. Not to say that if you're an Aries, you're immature. Maybe a better way to say it is it's very youthful energy. And it's not yet tested, it's not yet tried and true. So we don't know exactly what to expect, but taking the first steps are what we must do in order to discover what more is possible, right? So it's a what more is possible kind of energy. and it is action driven energy. So this isn't just any old Aries season though. Like everything else, it's hopped up, if you will, this year as it's happening between two major eclipses, right? The lunar eclipse that we've just had today in Virgo and the March 29th solar eclipse in Aries, right? In Aries, where Mercury and Venus happen to be sitting right now. And, there's this potential now for bold new energy coming out. We're closing out the Piscean energy and we're moving into this Aries sort of energy. So we may feel like everything is accelerating, getting faster, and that we might also feel like anything is possible and amplified, right, in some way. So let's put these three things together, or let's put these two things together. Three: lunar eclipse, Mercury retrograde, and now adding to it the movement of the sun into 0 degrees Aries. It's kind of exciting, don't you think, that we're alive at this point in time when all of this is possible and all of this is happening? And yeah, of course, it's a little daunting at times, but it's really kind of exciting as well. So remember then that the lunar eclipse brought us Virgo themes: healing, refinement, discernment, letting go of old systems and control patterns and perfectionism, over analysis or analysis paralysis. We're sort of letting that go. Also, a karmic reset, right? The eclipse cleared the way for a major energetic shift, and it's removing what was blocking us, perhaps, and helps us, to step into something new and more authentic for ourselves. And with Mercury in retrograde, we're tying this together with a need to pause, to process, to rethink before acting impulsively. And what this means then is that before we can really embrace Aries' bold beginnings with the March 20th move into 0 Aries, we must process and release what came up during the lunar eclipse. We don't get to skate free, just or skate through right into the next step. But the astrological new year is a new beginning, right? It's a big new beginning. It's initiation energy. It's bold, it's fire, it's action, it's independence, and it is just do it energy, right? The quote Nike here. And the sun joins Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde, and eventually will join Chiron and Eris in Aries during the next month. So from the 20th to the 20th, or to the 19th of April. There's new ideas available, but also a need to revisit old ones. Mercury retrograde might be bringing up the old ideas. There's the healing of wounds, and especially wounds of self expression and identity, right? That's an Aries thing, is I know who I am, or I am, right? Is what is healing in all of this. There's is also disruptive energy. It's fast moving and it builds momentum quickly. And it it can sort of push us into taking action that maybe we're not ready for. So we have to be watchful for this. And then Pluto in Aquarius right now is will be in a tight aspect to those Aries points. So they're revolutionary. And it's sort of a no holds barred energy. We're already seeing it, right? With things that we would never have thought ever, never ever have I ever thought would happen, are happening, right? People doing things, saying things, being things that they've never thought they could be or do or say, and they're doing it, right? And what this means is that the momentum is here, but with Mercury and Venus still holding a space of retrograde, we need to be more strategic about where we place our energy, when we place our energy, and what we place our energy on. Not every impulse needs immediate action, right? So we have to be very circumspect. We have to be strategic. I like that word. And then, of course, the next piece in this puzzle is the March 29th solar eclipse. And this is maybe the true rebirth moment because it's the new moon of the air. It's the Aries new moon, which really signals this powerful opening from the intentions and so forth that we set. and it happens at 9 degrees Aries, which is a powerful placement, but this is also a new moon that's on steroids, if you will, that launches us into uncharted territory. We haven't been here in the likes of this energy ever, right? Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, this isn't just any fresh start. This is a bold, fate driven kind of initiation. It's a solar eclipse. Fate steps in. And the eclipse, then, this March 29th Aries eclipse, is the go button. But for what? Right? That's another question we need to be working with over these next several weeks or couple of weeks. Um, there's courageous action available. There's independence energy available. There's personal reinvention. Who are you becoming? Right? Becomes a good question. Leadership, self sovereignty, cutting ties with anything that no longer fits with the new you. And what this means is if you're feeling this surge of motivation and an urge to take a risk or to take an action or to strongly feel like you want to be pushing forward, this is why, right? This Aries eclipse will really be that big door opener. It catapults us forward. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this because I love Aries energy, don't get me wrong, right? But it is an anything goes kind of energy. It's difficult to see how this plays out unless you look at the world right now and everything that you thought never could happen that's happened, right? In our government, in our world at large, in your communities, in your families, all of these things are such such change is taking place and it feels like whatever it is that anybody feels like doing, they do. And it just keeps happening and it's likely going to accelerate, right? Because there's an undeniable feeling of acceleration here as this drumbeat gets louder and louder. This Aries season is faster, is riskier, and more bold than usual because the eclipse removes blocks that were in the way. There's no waiting around for change by that point, with the exception of Mercury and Venus still being in retrograde at that point in time. They're the only blocks. So they're the break that gives you the opportunity to rethink, to be more strategic in how it is that you take new action. But Pluto's in Aquarius, and with that Aries point, there's revolution. There's sudden shifts, the things that we don't expect. There's radical reinvention, right? Reinventing of oneself or of one's nation or of one's government, whatever it is. There's this reinvention going on, and Aries is impatient energy, and retrogrades make things unpredictable. So we're being asked to embrace change, even if we don't fully understand why or where it's leading us, but we're being asked to embrace it. So how do we navigate that energy, right? This is like ramping up. If you thought this, eclipse was powerful, you know, you ain't seen nothing yet, right? So follow your instincts, follow your gut. Don't rush every decision. It's just not necessary. Be flexible. Things are shifting rapidly, and if you're trying to dig in your heels and hold on to what was or what you think you have to have, you're only going to forestall the inevitable and create more anxiety and conflict for yourself. Let go of fear. This energy supports bold new pathways, and fear will hold you back. And fear is really old energy, and it is energy that doesn't support you moving forward in a way that is really authentic for you, right? If you're constantly asking yourself, "Oh, what are people going to think if I do this?" or what, those are questions that are going to hold you back and creating that fear feeling. So trust that even if things feel chaotic, they're aligning. It's hard to see that. I'm the first to agree. It's hard to see that, but the chaos is leading us somewhere. So the lunar eclipse sets the stage where we let go of the old structures, the old illusions, and then the astrological new year next week on Thursday brings fire and momentum, but we still need to be intentional. And then the solar eclipse in Aries is the true catalyst, right? This is where, ready or not, it's go time. And this is one of the most action packed Aries seasons we've seen in years, right? Are you ready to embrace the new? Are you ready to put your running shoes on and get moving? So, the next 2 weeks, we're in this transition zone, if you will. And the official rebirth moment comes with that solar eclipse, even though it's a partial solar eclipse. So, things are still not perfectly clear, right? Um, but it's a major initiation energy. So the eclipses open the doors, right? Or the lunar eclipse opened the door. Mercury retrograde and the Aries energy means we're still navigating what comes next. And then the solar eclipse opens up the new door. So one door closes, another one opens. So, what we have here is a 3-part cosmic story of release, reset, and rebirth. It's a story. We create a storyline here, and these are characters. And the March 14th, today's lunar eclipse in Virgo, the astrological new year, and then the solar eclipse in Aries, they're not necessarily separate events. They're part of a larger cosmic storyline, and each phase plays a role in the energetic shift in the bigger picture of things and of what it is that we're moving through. So even though they're happening, a snapshot of each eclipse or of the Aries moment, they're part of a bigger picture, right, of what's happening. So the lunar eclipse, was a bit of a cosmic detox. Whether we were ready or not, something ended, unraveled, or became more clear to us that we needed to let go of or how we needed to move forward. It sort of stripped away illusions and forced a reassessment of what it is that's actually working in our lives versus what isn't working in our lives, giving you this opportunity. And this, of course, also connects to the astrological new year because Virgo rules sort of or reveals what's real, what's practical, what's grounded, what's down to earth. And Aries energy sparks bold action on what's next. So we really couldn't have stepped into a new chapter before clearing out this old one, right? So the lunar eclipse has to clear it out before we can step into what is new. And then the astrological new year becomes the reset button, right? And the theme is definitely about bold beginnings, unstoppable momentum kind of thing. So the lunar eclipse cleared the field, and the astrological new year lights up the fire. And Aries wants movement, wants action, and self leadership, right? Self sovereignty. But with Mercury still retrograde, Venus still retrograde, we're slowing that down a bit. We may feel the urge to move fast, but some things still need fine tuning. We're not yet ready. Aries says go, but the retrogrades say wait, check your map first, right? Just before you set out on the highway going nowhere, check the map. Make sure nowhere is where you want to be. And then how does this connect us to the solar eclipse? Well, the astrological new year is the setup. Aries season ignites that energy, and the solar eclipse in Aries is the payoff. It brings the actual fated changes that we need in order to be bold or to boldly move forward. Now, the solar eclipse then is the final push forward in this series, right? In this series of events. It's what's been brewing since the lunar eclipse and since the astrological new year. And we are talking about this sort of in a past tense, but remember, these things still haven't happened, right? We haven't had the solar eclipse yet. We haven't had the astrological new year. But I'm tying all of these together so you understand it's all part of one pattern, a larger pattern. It's not just individual moments. Okay. So The Virgo eclipse yesterday, today, cleared the past. The Aries ingress or the Aries sun moving into Aries is the reset. And the Aries solar eclipse that follows that launches us into something entirely new. And again, look to the house in your astrology chart, as that is going to tell you where in your life this is happening. And I believe Asa put out uh, a reel yesterday about the houses and how it might impact you. So go look for that. Asa, was that on Instagram? Or was that a Facebook reel, a YouTube reel? I don't know. Asa, I leave that to you to tell everybody where to find that information. So the takeaway from all of this is really about this being an unfolding process. It's not a one and done. It's not even a two or three and done. This is unfolding over time. So don't rush decisions post eclipse. Don't feel like you have to do something. Trust what's being revealed to you over this period of time. And then by April, you'll see why this transition was necessary. You'll have more clarity, especially after April 12th, when, well, April 7th, Mercury turns back to forward motion. April 12th, Venus does. So then things get to be a little more crystalline, perhaps, a little more clarity, coming for us as this goes on. So, final thoughts about these transits. First of all, this was one of the biggest energetic resets of the century, right? Or this will be and when it's through. You could also count this as one of the biggest pieces of the energetic picture for 2025 as well. And we had to release before we could reset. And now we're preparing for the rebirth. It's a process, right? And it unfolds. And the cosmic message in all of this is that you're not the same person that you were before the lunar eclipse. So once we get through the end of March, you'll look back and go, I've changed, right? Something's new, something's different. I feel different. I am different. I do things differently. Are you ready for that? Right? And lest you think it's all over by March 29th, think again, because the very next day, March 30th, Neptune will move across that Aries ingress point, 0 degrees Aries. And this might be, we might look at this as the final cosmic shift in this pattern, that Neptune is a spiritual and identity rebirth now. And again, happening in the same house where Aries is in your chart. You got to know your chart, people. If you don't know your chart, then it's not likely something that you're going to find, right? You're not going to see it. So if we thought the Virgo lunar eclipse, the astrology new year, the solar eclipse were big shifts, Neptune entering Aries on March 30th is the final exclamation point on the cosmic transformation that is occurring for this month, especially. And this marks Neptune's first transit into Aries since 1861, a massive generational shift that will reshape our spirituality, our identity, our leadership, and the collective vision that we hold for the world, for ourselves. And it's no coincidence that it's arriving right after this series of eclipses and the astrological new year. It's like this big, clarion call. It's the big exclamation point. So, how does Neptune's shift into Aries then tie into this eclipse season and the new year? It is, again, going back to what did the lunar eclipse do? It stripped us of illusions or of the old, forcing us to look for clarity, to see things in a better light or a clearer light. It showed us what needed healing or what needs healing still, right? The astrological new year will be this fresh surge of new energy coming in and motivation energy. But again, with Venus and Mercury both still retrograde, we're being asked to reflect before we rush into something. The solar eclipse, again, the fire, the yeah, fire ignition, if you will, to the next steps, fated sort of new bold beginnings, all wrapped up into that push us onto a new path. And then Neptune into Aries will redefine how we see ourselves in the world against the backdrop of the world. So this entire month of March has been an energetic preparation for Neptune's entry into Aries, right? If you want to look at it that way, it's huge. The lunar eclipse purified and cleared the path. The new year and the solar eclipse will ignite the fire of a new direction. And then Neptune entering Aries means there's no turning back, right? It is time to make the changes. So, Neptune being the planet of spirituality and dreams, illusion, and the collective consciousness or unconsciousness, as it were, it has spent the last 14 years in Pisces, a sign it rules, a sign of mysticism and compassion and surrender. Now, moving into Aries, Neptune's energy will shift dramatically. I mean, this is a big shift from those two signs. Pisces, Neptune's previous home, or right now sitting at the 29th degree of Pisces, was more passive, more dreamy, go with the flow kind of spirituality. In Aries, which will become Neptune's new home, bold, action driven, warrior spirituality, right? Taking up a cause. So, key shifts that we might see as far as Neptune is concerned here is maybe a rise in spiritual activism where people won't just believe because of believing, they'll fight for their beliefs. They will stand up, they will go to arms for their beliefs. And of course, with this comes a redefinition of leadership and identity. Who am I? And what am I here to do? Right? Am I doing what it and I found myself funny enough asking this question at 3 in the morning when I was awake. And I'm thinking to myself, why is this question even still there? Like, don't you know who you are by now and what you're here to do by now? But Aries is new, fresh, bold energy. It would kind of be natural for that question to come up, right? Making sure that you're on that path, that you are exercising, your personal authority in the world. This may also be the end of passive spirituality, where more courage, more direct action, and a push toward independence in belief systems. Um, I think the movie I watched last night, Heretic, is sort of an interesting study of this potential Neptune or of this Neptune move into Aries. I recommend it highly, and I just don't remember if we were watching it on Netflix or on Max, HBO Max. Find if you can find it. It's a good movie. Hugh Grant, that's the actor that plays the main character. Um, so illusions and false identities are exposed, right? The glimmer is removed, right? The glamour is removed. Aries is about self-truth, and Neptune will dissolve any fake personas, any misleading leaders, or any deceptive systems, right? All of that can be revealed. I also note that I wonder about the whole idea of disclosure, right? Of the whole idea of the UFO phenomenon and more about that. Neptune definitely rules that whole genre of information and experience, and what comes of that when we move Neptune into Aries. Because there's been a lot of deception around those things and what gets exposed as truth. Expect also some innovation in healing and in consciousness. Maybe we'll see breakthroughs in how we work with the mind, the body, and spirit, how we bring them together. Um, and a final cosmic message for us all is that a new era is here, right? The entire eclipse season plus Neptune's shift is one long, powerful initiation. That will also get ramped up again when Saturn moves across the Aries point in May. And it means we've been stripped down of the old. We've been fired up with the new and with the potential. Now we're stepping into this brand new long-term spiritual journey with Neptune and Aries. And the old ways of being are being dissolved, and a bold new way of living is emerging, even if it's uncomfortable for us in the beginning. So at some point, we're going to look back at March of 2025 and we're going to see it as a turning point. We're going to see it as a who we were before this month will not be the same as who we are after this month. The universe is kind of saying it's time to step up, claim your truth, claim your power, and walk forward with your purpose. So, are you ready? Right? Are you ready? This is a new wave of energy, and it's been coming in. We've been feeling it, right? We've been feeling it. And yet, there's more to come, no doubt. All right. Let me look back and see if there are questions. I saw one by Asa. What orb degree would you give this to any planets you have in Aries? Are you talking about the Aries reset, Asa, or the eclipse? What I would say, if you have anything within the first 10 degrees of Aries, it's likely going to be impactful. And I I would almost say anything you have in Aries will also be a part of this because it's just so much energy coming at one time, but particularly those first 10 degrees, I think. And also check your other fire signs, Leo and Sagittarius. What do you have there? Because those first 10 degrees, if you have planets in those areas, may also be impacted by this. And uh, it's on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you, Asa. So the information about the houses and what it means to have the eclipse this morning happening in the house in your chart will be on as a reel or a short on any one of those medias. And Tom says, unfolding like cats and dogs due to the laundry. Sorry, I don't get that one, Tom. But I'm sure it's probably in relation to something else someone said. Good morning, Paulette Peasley. TD Hawk says, sorry, I'm not on Insta or Facebook. I can't say that I blame you, but that is where most of my information goes. And even if you only go to those sites just for that. But Ace has also been putting a lot of that on YouTube in shorts and reels and posts, which you can find on my YouTube channel. And if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. That's very good, Tom. And let's see. The eclipse. Okay, Asa. So yeah, that eclipse in Aries. So that's at 9 degrees. I think you're talking about the solar eclipse. So the bold, right? The new world coming, the new you coming. So within, and I would even maybe think if you had a planet in, 10, 11, 12 degrees, that solar eclipse could also be impacting that. So it's not so much in this case this year, just that the degree, it's the amount of energy that's being, built around the Piscean and Aries parts of your chart. Because if you look at a chart, that's all, I mean, that's what you see is this, powerful bunch of planets in those signs. I mean, it's kind of amazing to me, right? And at this point, the sun hasn't gotten to Aries and Neptune will be moving into Aries, as will Saturn, in the next month or month and a half. It's a lot, right? So it's building, building, building. And Eris is already in Aries, and every one of you has natal Eris in Aries because she takes 500 years to move through a sign. So she's not necessarily, or 500 years to move completely around. So she spends quite a bit of time in one sign. If you take 500 and divide it by 12, that'll tell you how many months, how many years she spends in one sign. Okay, let's pull a card, shall we? So I pulled a deck out earlier, anticipating that we might want a galactic heritage card for this morning's reading. And, woo, lots of cards in this deck. And this deck is basically about our galactic heritage in terms of, where we come from. The other cosmic neighbors that we have, right? The Andromedas, the Pleiadians, the Orions, the Sirians, right? We've got a lot of neighbors that have given us gifts, who have gone through the growing pains that Earth now is going through. Ooh, is it this one? And this is interesting because the card I pulled is Sirius of the past, and it says good intentions, right? The good intentions, card number 46, which is a 10, which becomes a 1 of new beginnings, right? This is a pretty high new beginning. It comes from having boundaries, the 4, and joining that with the potential for your intuition to be the guiding force for what comes next. So let's look at this card. And what we have here is the ancient Syrians had very good intentions when they worked on Earth during the genetic projects, but sometimes good intentions are not enough. Mistakes are made and lessons are learned. Good intentions must be combined with foresight, integrity, and humility. This card asks you to look at the good intentions in your heart about an action you are making and find out how they can be strengthened through honest self observation, realistic evaluation, and long term vision. And most importantly, should mistakes be made, remember to forgive yourself. This sounds like a Mercury going into retrograde cautionary tale. This is another card that reflects the challenges that new species have as they begin to mature. Just like the Pleiadians and the Sirians, their enthusiasm, desire for service, and good intentions were not enough to ensure evolution. They must be tempered with long range vision, patience, wisdom, and other traits. This card refers to the good intentions of the Sirians and other species like the Pleiadians during the ancient time on Earth when they were interacting with new humans. These good intentions were admirable, but were often not enough to stop short sighted mistakes and quick actions that could have been avoided with a little bit of wisdom and patience. Every newly mature species passes through this test, and the Syrians were no different. If this card has shown up, it could refer to past lives of ours in which we were either a Syrian interacting with Earth or a human who benefited or suffered because of the actions of these young Syrians. Applying it to life now, it could also be giving you advice to look more deeply into your good intentions for action in life to see if there is a hidden reason for the action that might be more self serving. It is also challenging you to look at these good intentions and see if down the road those good intentions might actually inadvertently hurt someone else. Part of becoming a self responsible species is being able to be honest about our intentions and be hesitant to act without full awareness that the action is supported by the universe. Whoa, that's a big card, big message. All right. Good intentions, serious of the past. And again, this is the Galactic Heritage cards by Lissa Royal Holt, a deck I love to use. All right. That is it for me this morning, guys. I will see you on Monday. On Monday, I think what we'll do is we will take a look through these next cycles through the lens of human design, because we've not really looked at what is all of that going to do for us. So we'll see you then. Bye for now.